Record. All right, we are getting this party started. I feel like I need a new line because I use that every single time. I'm gonna have to like ask ChatGPT like how I actually like, here's what I've been using for every time like I hit go. What else should I be saying? And let the
Right.
AI kind of give me some stuff. But let everybody like jump in here real quick. Just want to
Cool.
make sure the chat is working. Can you guys like drop a quick message in the chat? I just want to make sure I have, there we go. Test. Perfect. So one of the fun things about running one of these, and we'll kind of get started in a second, let some people roll in, is every single time I have to actually set the chat up before we get started, so that way people can go. And one of the things,
Um,
yeah. So if it isn't set up, and if I like don't set it up, and then I give you control as a host, I can't go around and fix that. So another thing, if you want a good laugh about this, Pete, this kind of like goes into like you were talking about the things that happen behind the scenes when the webinar or the when the Summit system creates the webinar integrated with Zoom, it automatically sets all the video off. So
oh,
the
wow.
very first, and I completely forgot about that. So the very first speaker yesterday, Aaron, I spent the first 7 minutes before we got started, me freaking out, Googling how to actually be able to turn on a panelist video because it's not as simple like click the button. Like I had to so after that I went back into Zoom and turned them all on for every single session, but I'm just sitting there like sweat pouring down my face. It's like
Mm.
8:45. I can't figure this out.
You listen, Ben, I'll be honest with you. I'm really thankful, like when you share those types of stories. So, because it happens to me for sure. And so to hear somebody like you share it when it happens to me, I'm like, okay, so I'm not the only one.
And like Aaron actually had his like he has an entire production studio, so like they're like thinking it's on their end. It's really just me messing up on how to do Zoom. But oh man,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and
Listen,
get started.
that
Everybody's
was a great
rolling in.
presentation. You guys did well. I watched it live.
Oh, awesome. But thank you for that. But yeah, no, I am so excited. Like, finish your strong is all about setting yourself up to have an exceptional Q4. And how do you do that? You probably have to, if you had a tough year, or even a tough last quarter, or a tough month, a tough week, you have to learn how to overcome. Have to learn how to set yourself up for success. And that's why I am so excited about Pete sharing about overcoming it. I'm like, if you have heard his podcast episode, it is phenomenal. But I will, give a quick little thing. Also, real quick, if you haven't got VIP tickets, pick up the VIP tickets. That's how I actually help pay for the podcast. So thank you for that, those people that did. But Pete spent over a decade homeless on the streets, and he's going to go into that story. But he had to like overcome things that many of us don't have not had to overcome. You know, when I'm sitting there stressed out about sending an email or making a phone call, I didn't have to overcome addiction to drugs and living on the street and having to completely rebuild an entire life again. So I'm excited to let Pete share. So Pete, you got the floor, buddy.
Ooh, thanks, Ben. Wow. Yeah. So, thank you, Derek. Man, I see the shark just chimed in. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you, man. Tony, Brenda, Tiffany, thank you for taking time out of your day to jump on this thing with me. Yeah. So, I mean, if you haven't heard, the first podcast that I did, with Ben, um, early childhood trauma, right? Some things that were far beyond my control. And I'm not going to go too deep into what actually happened. If you want to know more, you can reach out to me after this. I'll be more than happy to talk openly with you about it. It's not something I'm ashamed of. I share it quite often, but I just think for the sake of this podcast and overcoming what I went through is kind of the point of the talk. So, yeah, man, had some early crazy childhood trauma stuff happen to me that left me in a place of wondering who I was and where I was, and do I really fit in, and all those other crazy things that happened to me. So growing up, I never really felt like I fit in anywhere. Right. My grandparents raised me. I have a little sister. And had somewhat on the outside looking in, like a normal ish teen adolescent life, all the trappings of a good household, right? Dinner on the table when I got home from school, playing little league softball, little league baseball, soccer, basketball, all those good things, but what was really going on the inside of me was a whole lot of craziness. And so, that led to me entering my teen years and early adulthood, of not knowing where to fit in and how to fit in, and not really understanding who I was. And so that put me in a bad spot. By the time I hit 18, 19 years old, dabbled in a little bit of drugs, right? But because I was raised in a small town is the only thing that I attribute to that I was able to use alcohol and drugs destructively, for just a few short years and then stop. Right. And I think because I grew up in a small town, nobody knew about alcoholism or drug addiction or homelessness or any of that stuff. So around 21 years old, I was able to stop those things, and go back, and go to work. Right. And for 9 years, I worked at the Walmart distribution center up in Brooksville, Florida. And during that time, still struggled to find my identity. Right. I got promoted to the loading dock supervisor, ran the loading dock for a few years. Had 50 guys under me, but I remember during that time that, sometimes I would walk into the distribution center, and I would walk into the room with all the guys there, and I would think to myself, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I have no idea how I got promoted. I don't know what they saw in me, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this thing off. So, it was just a mess for me. And so what ended up happening is, like, I made it 9 years there without any drugs, trying to put the pieces of my life back together, or make some semblance of a normal, or at least where I could feel normal. Right. And so I had a daughter, and then, when 30 years old, right? I'm 30 years old. I am thinking I'm coming home from a bar one night. If you've never heard the story, I'm coming home from a bar one night. I run into a guy that says, "Hey, you want to party a little bit?" And I remember thinking to myself that, sure, why not? What could it hurt? It's been 9 years since I've done any type of drugs or alcohol. Let's see what this thing's all about. And it never stopped. That one night of using drugs again, it was an immediate and tragic downfall. That the train went off the tracks. Immediately. It took, within 1 year's time. I had lost a job at Walmart. My family didn't want anything to do with me. Friends pushed me away. I was living in a house that had no electricity, no running water, no furniture, no food, no anything. It was a pretty horrible situation. And I remember thinking to myself at that time, the only thing, like, I needed to get out of here. I needed to run. I needed to go somewhere. I needed to try to go somewhere and fix myself, stop the drinking, stop the drugging, and then I could come home. And so that was the mindset of then, right? Really didn't give any thought to the fact that, I was, leaving my family and leaving my daughter that was 10 years old at the time. I just knew I needed to get away, and then I could come back, and then we would all say, "Hey, Pete's back," and sing Kumbaya, and we will all have a big party. That didn't happen. What did happen, though, is when I left, I don't remember the specific date. It was November 2000. In the middle of the night, I packed all of what was left in the house, which consisted of about 3 boxes of clothes, some photo albums, and I threw that stuff into the back of my Honda, and I drove south on Interstate 75 out of Brooksville, and I never went home. And that was not the plan. Right. That was not the plan at all. I didn't know what the plan was. I didn't know what to expect. I just knew I needed help. I didn't know where to get help. I didn't know who to reach out to. I didn't know who to call. The people that were closest to me didn't want anything to do with me. So I was just looking for a way to get fixed so I could go back home. And it didn't happen. 1 year of being gone turned into 2 years of being away, turned into 3 years. at this point. It's like no communication with my family, um, with my ex at the time, with my sister. Turned into 4 years, turned into 5 years. And then it's just the drugs and the alcohol absolutely consumed every aspect of my life to the point where I no longer cared about anything. It was irrelevant to me, you know. And then the years just started to tick away. 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and so there was a point in time, probably about year 8. This would have been 2000. Let's see, 2012, 2009, somewhere like that. I was absolutely convinced that I was going to die on the streets, from drug addiction. There was no doubt about it. I was ready to die, even though I didn't want to die. I didn't want to die on the streets. I didn't want to die homeless, living in a cardboard box. Excuse me, eating out of a dumpster. I didn't want any of that to happen, but I was completely powerless to do anything about it. Right. And so, but obviously, that wasn't the story. In 2011, my sister found me. I was incarcerated. I was doing time, in a county jail. My sister found me strictly on a whim, by calling county jails all across Florida, and asking if I was an inmate there. Turns out that this one time she made the phone call, I was there. She sent me a letter. Which created a little bit of a reunion. Hey, at least he's alive. We know he's alive. We haven't heard from him in 9.5 years. And so I ended up in Sarasota, Florida, where I live now. And so I think the overcoming part for me, was the fact that I felt like in that moment, at that year in time, that and so there's much more poignant moments, that again, if you want to, go listen to the podcast that I had with Ben the first time, I talk about it there. But there was a few poignant moments, that actually, that I know today absolutely shifted the course of my life. And it had to do with my daughter. But once that happened, right, I was keenly aware that, that I needed to do something different, right? And the reason was because coming off the street after 10 years, of living in the woods and sleeping in cardboard boxes and eating out of dumpsters, there's a very shell shocked feeling that's going on. I don't feel like I'm worthy. I don't feel like I deserve to be alive. How do I integrate myself back into society? And so all those things and all those feelings, were happening all at the same time. But at some point in time, when I had this moment with my daughter, I just made this mental decision, like that if I'm going to get out of this thing, if I am going to reintegrate myself into back into society, with any semblance of just having a normal life, right? I'm going to have to put in some work, right? And it's going to have to be some work that I probably don't want to put in, right? And so, and that's where, 2012, 2013, I am introduced into the wonderful world of recruiting, from a friend of mine that was in the business. And the only reason at this time I was painting houses, the only reason that he asked me if I had ever thought about doing any type of recruiting, which, like most of us at that time, I had never heard of recruiting, was he said that I had a really good personality. And he thought that fit well into the relationship aspect of recruiting. Right. And so, I gave it a shot. Right. What else have I got to lose? At this time, I'm 44 years old. I'm 4 years off the streets. I'm slowly starting to put my life back together. I've, now as my wife, I'm just into an early relationship with my wife, but I just figured, why not? Why not? And the biggest obstacle for me at that time was going into an office space and having to sit in an office in a cubicle all day. nothing that I was ever familiar with, right? And because my life was just the opposite. Forget having a roof over my head, much less having to sit in a chair, right? And sitting in front of a computer all day and not knowing anything about computers, not knowing anything about anything really. But I just gave it a shot, right? And turns out I was pretty good at it. It took me a while to get over the computer end of it, right? Because I didn't have any computer knowledge, I didn't have any computer skills, so the learning curve, in that aspect was the arch was really really long. But I know my the one thing where I believe that recruiting has really improved my life as a whole, right? And I know Scott Love talks about it a lot. He says that the recruiting industry is a business development course, or personal development course disguised as a career, right? Because if you've been in recruiting for any amount of time, it's just you have to self improve in so many areas of your life in order to be really really good at this game. And so that's kind of, what I did. I just jumped in with both feet. I started studying the trade. I started studying sales, right? I started to learn about computers. I started getting really, really good on the phone. And matter of fact, I got really, really good at getting on the phone with other people and keeping my mouth shut, right? And being able to listen to what somebody else was saying on the other end and not being the first one to just go blah, 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 because it's the one thing that I love to do sometimes is talk about myself and say a whole lot of nothing. Um, the obstacle was this is the first thing is the mental obstacle is like, okay, I have to sit in a front of a computer. Like, how am I going to make this happen? Right? What does this look like in practical terms? And for a long period of time, like it was uncomfortable, right? And I didn't like it. And the boss that I had at the time, he was a real hard ass, right? He would literally stand off of my shoulder, and he was a friend of mine, so that's probably another reason that he was being a little extra hard on me, because maybe he knew that I could handle it, but he would really apply the pressure to me. And I remember there were a few times that I would sit in that desk and I would just sweat, right? And it was just it's the anxiety and the fear, and am I going to be able to do this thing? Can I hang in there? Can I get my first placement? Is this placement going to make guarantee, and can I get finally paid to where this thing looks like it could be a real thing? And all of that happened, and so I did that for a few years. And about the same time that I left so that company went down the tubes, which isn't too untypical, in the recruiting industry. Small boutique firm, you got an owner that is not really humble, right? And of course, it just went down the tubes, and so I left and went to another place, right? And so it was about this same time, right, where I think the transition for me really started to happen. Um, I started to explore personal fitness in my own life, which I believe today really propelled and really started to prepare me for being a recruiting owner, right? And so, what does that look like, right? And so for me, I know this, and this may not be true for everybody, but it is absolutely true for me. My default mechanism is to seek the path of least resistance in every area of my life. And I don't have to think about it. Right. So let me give you some examples of what that looks like in real time for me. Right. So if you don't know, so my morning routine kind of looks like this, right? I haven't done it in the last couple months for a reason. 2 months, well, not even months, 5 weeks. I apologize. It's all fresh new. It's just happening. So my morning routine is pretty rigid, right? So my morning routine looks like this because I know I don't want to do anything. I push myself outside of my comfort zone on purpose. I intentionally put myself in uncomfortable situations so I can build my mental fitness, right? And that is only a result because I spent so many years on the streets that I didn't have to use my mind really for anything other than bad stuff, right? Which was never really good. But because I seek the path of least resistance in all areas of my life. What I started doing was pushing myself outside of my comfort zone on purpose, intentionally. And so what that looks like is this: I started getting up really early in the morning and running. I don't have any running experience. I'm not a runner. I've maybe had to run away from a couple bad situations now and then, but not a runner, not in any type of physical fitness. I wouldn't say that I was ever really overweight, but just for a guy that was 43, 44 years old, was in no kind of shape whatsoever. So I started to run. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm really not even sure why I started to run, other than I just felt like there was a need to start pushing myself in areas that I didn't want to. Um, I just felt like I needed to do it, right? And listen, and I'll share a story with you when I first started running. That I think is worth sharing, because it explores the possibilities, what I believe that I am capable of, what I believe that everybody is capable of. So I'm like 3 months into running. I don't like it. It still hurts. I can't run more than a mile at one time without stopping 4 times, and then, I'm doing all this crazy stuff. But I remember I came back from this run, um, and I'm standing in my driveway and I started crying. Right. Every bone in my body is hurting. Listen, and I'm just going to paint the picture here so it's really clear. Like, I'm not big. I'm not overweight. I'm 44 years old. I'm probably 195 pounds. I'm 5'9", which is just a little bit overweight with me, but no endurance, no athleticism, no nothing. And I remember after this particular run, I'm standing in my driveway after the run, and I'm thinking, and I'm literally crying because it hurts my body, and mentally it was really, really painful. And I remember thinking to myself, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I continuously punishing myself by getting up off of the couch and going out and running, and I don't have to do this? I remember that. And the conversation that I had with myself, well, at least what I said back to myself was, I don't know, but you can't stop. Right? You have to keep doing it. And so that was years ago. And so, like, pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, as far as exercise, like, has absolutely transformed every area of my life. And most importantly, it has transcended the way I do business, the way I participate in business, the way I run business, the way I participate with other people in business, the way that I treat my clients. It makes a difference, because what happens is I feel better about what I'm doing with exercise in the morning. And what I know for sure is, if I feel better about myself, right, that reverberates outwards, right? And so, I'm nice when I feel good about myself. I'm nicer to people, right? When I'm not really feeling as hot about myself, maybe I've laid off for a couple days, maybe I'm not in the best mood. So now at that point, I know that that's true about me, right? I just double down on it, right? Because I make it my responsibility to always feel the best that I can feel, no matter what, right? And so I dig in on that aspect of my life. And so it is so that has just, so many things have happened. Um, and I don't want to do any of it. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I don't want to do any of it. And I promise you, if you just give me a couple more seconds, I'll get into the business and what it looks like in real time there. But for me, the most important thing that I think that I've, was able to do, is to recognize my weaknesses, right? And be real with myself about what those weaknesses are, because sometimes it's real easy, like, just to paint over, something without identifying it, really, and I don't know if that makes any sense, like, but like I got to be all in on me. I have to be all in on me, because when I feel good about me, then I just feel good, right? And I like feeling good about myself. So that then I started running, and then a few years after that, right? And so I was introduced into the world of, well, I'll tell you what happened. I started about 4 years, 3, 4 years ago. I started taking cold showers, right? On my own because I heard it on a YouTube video, right? And so for a year, I took cold showers. I really didn't even know cold plunging was a thing. And then I had a friend that was asking, everybody's asking me about these cold showers that I'm taking because I told a couple people, and they're like, some guy was like, hey, you ever heard about cold plunging? I'm like, no, what's cold plunging? It's like, well, you submerge yourself in this 40-degree water. And so I start doing that. Um, and I still cold plunge every day. Um, Between the cold plunging and the breath work that I do, and the meditation that I do, and the running that I do, and the brushing my teeth with my opposite hand, and a bunch of other things that I have written on my whiteboard behind me, it has absolutely transformed my life. For sure, absolutely transformed my life. I believe that, today, as I sit here today at 55 years old, in the best shape of my life, I think, at least that's my latest blood work says, I feel good. Like, and I enjoy feeling good. Listen, and this is where the overcoming really starts to show itself in my life. Because the one thing that I want to let you guys know for me is, my morning routine, right? And I'm not saying this to brag. This is just something, it is for me. It is for me only. I know many, many successful people out there, highly successful people out there, super successful people, right? That are really, really good people that are like light years ahead of me in terms of business and finance or anything yet, or anything like that. And they don't have any type of crazy normal or crazy morning routine like I do. So I'm not telling you that you have to go out and start doing any of this stuff. I have just found what works for me because of the way that I was brought up and the positions that I put myself in when I spent a decade living homeless on the streets. These are the things that I need to do for myself that keep me mentally, physically, and spiritually fit. Right. And so I get up at 4:30 in the morning. As soon as I get up at 4:30, I walk straight into the bathroom and I splash cold water on my face. As soon as I get done splashing cold water on my face, I don't even know why I'm telling you this, guys. I don't know. It sounds kind of even weird saying it out loud, but splash cold water on my face, and then I'm going to brush teeth with my left hand. I am right-handed. The reason that I brush my teeth with my left hand, because they say it helps improve your cognitive function. I don't even know if that's true or not, but here's what I can tell you for sure. If you ever try to brush your teeth with your opposite hand, it's a little difficult and you have to concentrate on it. So that's what leads me to believe that there must be something to it. As soon as I get done, cold water face, brush my teeth, opposite hand, I look in the mirror and I take 10 deep breaths in through my nose, out through my mouth. And then right after I get done doing that, I look straight into the mirror at myself and I say, I love you. You are worth it 10 times. I don't know why I do it. It feels good when I do it. It feels good when I say it. I heard some guy in a podcast say to do it, so I do it. It's just part of my routine. And then after that, I'm literally right there in front of the kitchen or at the bathroom sink. I am right on the floor, and on my knees, and I pray. Right. Not a super spiritual person, but I absolutely believe that God has played a hand in me being here today. So I just want to say thank you, right, for allowing me to be here, allowing me to be alive and have this wonderful life that I have today. And so after I get done praying, I go out in the kitchen. I drink a glass of lemon water, fresh squeezed lemon, half a cup of cold coffee. I don't know why I drink cold coffee. It's black. There's nothing in it. There's no creamer, no sugar. It's just a thing that I do. I take the dog outside so he can use the restroom. I put on my running shoes. I head out the door to go for a 4-mile run. After the 4-mile run, I come back into the house. I have a cold plunge on my back pool patio. And I jump right into the cold plunge. Right now, I've got the cold plunge set at 45 degrees, and I'm in the water for about 3 minutes. It's not anything crazy. It's tolerable. But the reason that I do those things, I can tell you as if I invented it myself, right? It's this powerful for somebody like me. I have no desire to get out of the bed at 4:30 in the morning and do any of the stuff that I talked about. And as a matter of fact, there are many mornings when I get up out of bed and I'm like, I don't feel like going for a run. I just don't feel like going for a run. Like, why do I need to go for a run? Right? Because I told myself I was going to go for a run. And for somebody like me with my type of background, I have to hold myself accountable. Right. And that's all it really is for me at this point. It's just self accountability. Right. If I tell myself I'm going to do something, I have to be committed to me. Right. Because that's where the character is built for me, for somebody like me. And again, I'm just speaking for myself. Right. That's the character building process. And that's overcoming all of the bad stuff that's happened to me that I put myself in, over the last almost, 25, 30 years of life. It's just character building skills for me, because each time that I come in from a run, and it's more days than not, like I'm sweating, it's hot, I don't like it. I live in Florida. Most days it's like 250 degrees. You can't breathe. It's humid out here. There's no oxygen. Um, and the last thing that I want to do is just change real fast and go onto the patio and jump into the 40-degree water. It's scary. Okay, and it will, and most days not. It creates anxiety. And I think to myself, I think of all the excuses and all the reasons why on this particular day I really don't have to go jump in the water, right? But I do it anyway. And every single time, like clockwork, as soon as I take my phone with me, I set it for a 3-minute timer. I jump in the cold water. As soon as the timer goes off, I jump out and listen. And if there's nothing else, for the many reasons that I do it, that are, it's about holding myself accountable and creating some type of mental fitness for myself, is like when I pop out of that cold water after having sit in there for 3 minutes. It is the most exhilarating feeling that I have ever had in my life. And what happens almost every single day is, by the time I've done all that morning routine and then I get my wife up at 7 and I make her coffee, by the time I leave for work at 7:15, 7:10, 7:15, I literally feel like that I can accomplish anything on this planet when I'm walking out of my house on my way to work. And I really enjoy that feeling. I love overcoming the parts of my mind that are saying, you don't need to get up this morning. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. You could probably take a day off here. But when I continuously push that voice back, that's telling me, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. And I push that voice back, right? It's just an amazing feeling. And it's really, really cool. Like, I don't know, if everybody's in an office, a lot of people are remote today, but and even if, I'll probably be working remote here soon, but whether you're working remote or, driving into the office, it's really cool to walk into an office and feel the best that you could possibly feel. It just makes the entire day better. I've always got a big smile on my face. I enjoy smiling. I like smiling. I like laughing. I like, having a good time at work. Don't necessarily like what it takes to get me to that space, right? But I like the results of it, right? And so one of the things that, all right, let's kick it into work here for a second. And so I'm able to overcome a lot of the obstacles and a lot of these obstacles I put in front of myself, right? They're choices, they're intentional obstacles, right? And I think that's the biggest part is they're intentional obstacles that I put there in front of myself to push myself, to see what I'm made of, see how far I can go, and we'll see, and so another thing that an obstacle that I've had to overcome is I have, I'm sure everybody that's, on this call right now or watching this thing, we have very, very full lives. And there is no way, and it became apparent to me a while ago, that I cannot keep up with my daily schedule. of running the business and dealing with employees and dealing with partners. And I have a wife, and I have a large group of friends in the recovery community here in Sarasota. And I have a seat on the board of directors for Lightshare Behavioral Wellness and Recovery Centers. And I take meetings into jails and then and all the other things. And I couldn't keep up with it. Right. And so now what I do today is I write everything down, and everything that I do is in a calendar. Right. I plan my days the day before, right? The night before. So I always know what I'm doing the following morning, because I have proven over and over and over again that when I don't plan my day the day before, I will get very little work done. And I really would love to just be able to roll out of bed, grab a cup of coffee, hang out with the wife for a couple minutes, kiss the dog, head out the door and roll into the office without any type of planning and just be able to be productive. But I've tried that. It's a miserable failure, complete disaster. So for somebody like me, I have to plan. I literally plan everything, and I have to do it. And sometimes it's not the easiest thing, because what it looks like is the night before, like on any given night, anywhere between 8:15, like I've shut down for the night and I'm planning the next day. I have to do it. Right. And it's a non-negotiable. I would love to be able to just walk into work and be productive, but I can't. That's not who I am. That's not the way that I'm wired. So I can't. So planning everything out is really, really important for somebody like me, especially when you're dealing with clients and candidates. And even though, the ATS systems now today, are, everything's so automated that you really don't have to do a whole lot. But, work is just a tiny piece of the puzzle of life. So I literally try to plan everything. If somebody calls me and they're like, hey, can you come here? Can you do this? Like the first thing that I do is like, hold on a second. Let me look at my phone. Let me grab my calendar. Let me see if I'm free on, next Thursday at 7, and you want me to come here and speak, or you want me to go there, or, go grab dinner with the guys. I got a bunch of guy friends here that we do a lot of stuff together. Like the first thing I do is I look at my calendar. And so, overcome the obstacle. And I used to tell myself, I thought I had a forget problem. I just thought I had bad memory. Right. But it turns out I don't have a bad memory. I just have a very full schedule, like most productive adults. Right. And so I write everything down. I keep everything in a calendar. Work related. So here's another obstacle that I'm going through right now. So 2022, I was the founder of Titan Placement Group with Gary and Justin. We are no longer together. It's going to be another couple days or two. It was just, we split. I going to be leaving the firm. Still officially a part of it. We're working out the details of it. Should be wrapped up today or tomorrow. But I think it's important to talk about, because it was a small obstacle, because when we started Titan Placement Group, at least I was, I can speak for them. Like, we thought it was going to last forever. Right. And listen, the company is still there. It's still going to be strong. They're doing spectacular things over there. What we built will be around for a while. But the one thing that I know that we underestimated, right, was having 3 equal majority partners at the same time trying to run one thing. It just became, it just wasn't fun. Like, in running a business is not supposed to be fun, right? But I think we underestimated, right, what it was going to look like having 3 voices running a company. So 5 weeks ago, we decided to split. I'm going to be leaving the company. And I think what I want to talk about the most is this, is it's only been 5 weeks. We split on good terms ish. Right. And 5 weeks later, we did it without lawyers, right? The payout was very fair, right? It's a number that they weren't happy with and a number that I wasn't happy with. But for the sake of just everybody can move on, like everybody was flexible. And I think that's important to talk about because I know sometimes, in life and especially in the recruiting business, we can get tied emotionally to candidates and clients. And if the, and if the candidate, doesn't take the job and they've been telling us the whole time, I'm going to take the job. I love this job. I don't have to move. They're giving me $45 an hour, and then the offer comes in and, you call the candidate and you're super excited. You're like, hey, listen, they gave you $49 an hour. And the candidate's like, yeah, I'm declining the offer. Right. What I've learned is to not have an emotional attachment, right, to the client acquisition side or the candidate side. Like my job is just to be the middleman, right? And if I do my job well, 85% of the time, it's gonna go well, right? But I've had to remove the emotional aspect of recruiting, right? And it's worked really well for me, and I am really really proud of the fact that Gary, Justin, and I were able to sit down like adults because I've been a part of a recruiter that has had to leave a company before, just as the recruiter, not the owner. And this guy chased me like for like a couple $100, chased me through the court system. And it was just crazy. I didn't want to go through anything like that. I know Gary and Justin didn't want to go through anything like that. And so we sat down like adults and we literally would just have conference calls back and forth, and we would just throw numbers back and forth and they would throw a number and I'm like, that doesn't really work for me. I'd throw a number back. Never got heated. It never got crazy. And it was an amazing experience because I think what it speaks to is the character, right, of Titan Placement Group and what we did together as a company. Now it's just time for me to go do something else. I am absolutely, as soon as this paperwork is signed, I'm going to do it again. I have some different ideas, going to niche down just a little bit more. But, so that's where I am for it's just like another obstacle, right? And the reason that I wanted to talk about that with you guys is because there was a very small opportunity for me, right? Just based on my background, and I'm just talking about me. There is a very small opportunity for me to play victim, right? To badmouth, right? To create some type of toxic, negative environment as it relates to my former company. And I'm not doing that. Like, I'm just not doing it. I'm not. Like the time that I have with myself, that my mental capacity has to be positive. And I do that by choice today, right? I seek positive content all day long, right? There's enough bad stuff going on in the world, right? That I just don't want to be bogged down with it, man. Like even if somebody well, it hasn't happened in a really long time, but like if somebody really, really does me wrong, right? I have a choice in that matter, right? And today I am just choosing the path of keep it moving. Like if it just didn't work out, it didn't work out, man. Like I am responsible for my choices today. I am responsible for how I handle situations and reacting negatively, and I just don't like it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to participate in it. I like being positive. I like hanging out with people. I like forming new relationships. I like building companies. I'm going to do it again. I'm really looking forward to this next step in my career. And listen, I'll take 5 more minutes, man. Recruiting has absolutely changed my life in every single area, but it's not easy. Like if you want to be a recruiter, like if you're on this call and you're thinking that you want to go do this thing, man, go do it. Take a chance on yourself, right? Just go take a chance on yourself. And then instead of you're saying to yourself, like, well, what if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it does work out? You know, just don't have a plan B. Just make it happen. I can tell you what I've learned from when I started and founded Titan Placement Group in just the very 2 short years. Like that company's phenomenal. We built something great together. Um, just put in the work. I don't know how it happens, but I promise you this: like if your intentions are pure, your intentions are right, the universe will conspire, right, to put people in your life at each and every single step of the way, right, to help you along this path. Um, People just want to see other people succeed, and I believe that with all my heart. I love seeing people succeed. People helped me along the way, and if anybody needs my help, like you don't even got to pay me. I'm just helping. It's part of my service that I do for my community and for myself and for other people. I think it's service is it's just a good way to live, right? Trying to think of some other obstacles. You know, um, if you're new to recruiting, like listen, it is an amazing career. It is an absolutely amazing career, but it's not easy. It is real work that comes with real frustration, right? That frustration that it brings will build resiliency within you. It'll make you a better it'll make you a better person, right? It'll make you handle your emotions better. Like that is what it's all about. It's like for somebody like me, it's how can I handle my emotions in any given situation? What does that look like in real time? Right. And so another thing that I do is like I don't even know if you guys can see it back here or not. Like I have this, I don't know if you can see that back there, but I have a full size whiteboard. It's 6 by 8 on my wall in my home office here. And as I said a minute ago, I consume a lot of positive content in all areas of social media. And when I hear a quote that is something that I don't want to forget, right? That I want to implement in my life, I write it up there, right? Because that's the first thing that I look at every single morning when I come into my office here, right? They're all up there, and all the way back there in the very top left is my morning routine. Not that I need to see it because I have it memorized, but it's up there for a reason. And then down here on the bottom right, on the bottom right, in the very last corner, it says plan your day for tomorrow, right? Because I don't want to forget that, right? And so I've put all of these processes and procedures in place to help me stay on course, right? Because I don't want to fall off, I don't want to stray. I have really enjoyed the trajectory of my life over the last 10 years, right? And so I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep surrounding myself with people that are better at anything that I want to do, right? Because I enjoy learning from people. I enjoy learning, period. But you always want to put yourself in a position to be surrounded with better people. So I love recruiting, man. I don't know what else to say. I feel like I could talk for hours, but at the same time, I feel like I don't have anything to say, and nothing else to say that's really, really important. So
Got
it's
a few
10
questions for
minutes
you.
to 4. Yeah, 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 yeah. Go. That's what I
So
was going to cut it off for the questions.
real quick, Rebecca Molina, I see that your hand is up. Did you have a question? Rebecca, are you there? Oh, no. Okay.
Oh, she said no. Okay, I see it.
What time do you go to
Uh,
bed?
8:30. I'm sleeping by 9.
Are you, I'm guessing this is probably a future question, but are you still active with healthcare recruiting?
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Of course, wouldn't do anything else.
One of the things that a lot of recruiters deal with is just like, there's so many distractions during the day. How do you focus or how did you set aside your time to make sure that you're doing like business development every single week with all the other
Yeah.
things that you could easily be doing?
Sure. And that's a great question. So the way that I do it is this: is again, it's a planned out schedule. So from um, we start work at 8:30, right? We're at our desk at 9. From 9 o'clock in the morning to 11 is all business development, right? That's all we do. Like I am constantly cold calling, emailing, and texting clients that I have previously put into my Excel spreadsheet, right? And then from 11 to 12, I'm catching up on email. 12 to 1, everybody's out for lunch. Sometimes I don't take a lunch. It just depends on what the days look like. And then for the rest of the day after lunch, it is straight recruiting. At 4:30, right? You shut the computers down again, and then you go back to the business development. And then what you do is you pick 10 each day. You pick 10 new clients you think you want to do business with, right? And you put them on your list for the following morning.
So, I'd love to know that you mentioned that you're going to be starting another company. What are the top three tools that you are looking to get your hands on?
Great question. So right before one tool that we just started using that I am eager to get back to is Source Whale. And listen, there's a lot of really good tools out there, man. I mean, for somebody like me that is just an old fashioned phone hog, I need information. So I need people's cell phone numbers. Listen, and I don't know, it's been around a while. I really enjoy it. I think Signal Hire is an amazing tool for somebody like me that needs cell phone numbers and email addresses for people that I want to call.
How far do you run daily?
4 miles, 4 miles every morning.
What are some of the quotes that have made it to your whiteboard?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'll read a couple. Can you hear me, Ben?
Yep.
Um, if you do the things you tell yourself you're going to do, you will be unstoppable, right? Sometimes you need to tell yourself, no more TV, no more alcohol, no more snacks, no more laziness. Do not focus on the bad stuff. Mourn or grieve, then keep it moving. You don't need as much rest as you think you do. Look at your calendar every night and every morning. You are the competition. You are in competition with one person and one person only, yourself. There are no easy days. Successful people plan their days the night before. Growing mentally, physically, and spiritually is uncomfortable. Get used to the pain. Everything you have in life is a reflection of your choice. I am in control of my mind. Failure is simply a data point to do better the next time. And I'll read one more. In life, you will find what you are looking for. Consume positive content. That's really a poignant one for somebody like me, only because of my background. Like I can easily fall into the trap of all the negative stuff that's going on in the world, right? Because it's just so out there. Like I stick to the positive stuff, man. Like that's just where that's where I need to keep my head.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yep, 5 years. That's an easy question. The new company will be at 40 recruiters. There is brief talks of maybe partnering with another large firm. Yeah, man. But I mean, I'm absolutely doing this again. I enjoy the hustle. I enjoy the strain of it. I enjoy the pressure of it. Yeah, man.
During business development calls, how do you take ownership of the calls, especially with new clients?
That's actually a really, really good question. So how I take ownership of the call is first, it's very rare that I make an absolute cold call, right? I would suggest that you don't do that, right? You have to know who you're calling, right? You have to understand the market. For me, my company, we do healthcare recruiting, and a large portion of what we do is mental and behavioral health, right? And so what I do is before I make any initial phone call, even if it's a cold call, right? I already know the person that I'm looking for. I know their first name. I know their last name. I know the position that they hold within the organization. It's usually going to be COO, CEO. Yeah. On rare occasion, if it's a very large company, I'll even reach out to the HR director, because usually within a big organization, usually HR directors have a lot of pull, and have some authority. So I'll reach out to them. And more specifically, I know the open positions that they have before I make the call. Right. So I don't ever go into a call just wondering, hey, do you have any open positions that I can work on? When I call into an organization, I just simply introduce myself, brief, hey, my name's Pete. I'm with blank blank, placement group. The reason for my call, I see that you guys have a blank position opened in blank Ohio, or whatever the city and state is. I just wrapped up a search for that exact same position with another client, 75 miles away. Do you have any candidates in the pipeline, type of thing? I have a script for everything. And so I come into the conversation providing value. I'm in their space. I know what positions that they have open. It's exactly what I do, and I have candidates, right? So all I've done in that first 30 seconds, or maybe even a minute, is just provide value.
So you guys went from 2 years from pretty much nothing to 17 recruiters. You guys doing great with growing. What are the top three pieces of advice that you would give to another recruiter that's actually just getting started with their firm to really just have that kind of success by year one, year two that you guys have had?
Sure. So yeah, that's a great question, Ben. If you're asking that, or if somebody, I don't know if somebody else asked to that. Like if you're a new recruiter, right? Pay attention to the leaders within that organization, right? It's really, really important that you don't try to branch out too much on your own and think, that maybe you can figure out a shorter, easier, softer way, because recruiting now is so multifaceted. You can hit this thing, whether it's business development or recruiting, from 17 different angles. But in the beginning, it's really, really important to learn the basics. And if you learn the basics, then you can branch off of that.
For those that you came in and learned the basics from other recruiters, what advice
Yeah.
would you give to recruiters to really just places to find those basics?
Oh man, listen, read, listen, do work outside of work. Right. One of the things that a reason that it took me a little bit longer than most, is because I really wasn't willing to put in the work outside of work. And listen, I'm not telling you to like work for free and work from home and do all that crazy stuff, but like recruiting is an amazing, amazing career. But if you want to get really good into this business, you're going to have to put in a little extra work. Right. And so listen to podcasts like the Elite Recruiter podcast is one of the best in the business. Because Ben has, like, every guest that he has on is like, even if they're in a different industry, recruiting at the end of the day is recruiting, right? Learn the skill, learn the trade, right? Study the trade, get really good at the basics of recruiting. Spend some time when you're at home putting in work.
Awesome. Well, Pete, I just want to say thank you so much for jumping on, sharing. Um, you know, I definitely one of the things about many of us is we all have our own stories and the things that we've gone through to get to the place that we are today.
Sure.
And I know, compared to maybe you, some people have had it like easier. Maybe compared to you, they've had it 10 times worse.
Yep.
But here's the thing that I loved about your story is you took the time to rewrite your story. And,
Yeah.
recruiting was a thing that kind of like helped change the game. So I want to say thank you for sharing. For everybody that tuned in live, I want to say thank you guys so much. If you're watching this on the replays, I am so grateful that you guys are part of this community, picking up the replays, helping keep the podcast going, just so that way we can keep on sharing more and more stories. So we are one more session, and then we're done with day 2 of this summit.
Woo!
So, man,
Hey, Ben, hey, real quick, man. I have I listened. Oh man, I think I mentioned I listened to one live, and I've watched a couple. Listen, your guests are killing it, man. I mean, it is unbelievable what's happening here.
it is. I think this is can easily be a $10,000 like master class of a week to set people up in Q4. But all right, man, I'll give everybody a quick break, and I will see you guys at the next session.
Thanks, guys. See ya. See ya, Ben.
Bye.